of like problem solving, right? I think we all know that creativity comes from a bunch of things, especially like people who are like microdosing in Silicon Valley. Our people, hey, did some of the vision questing stuff a long time ago and came up with some really amazing ideas too. So just acknowledge that they come from different spaces, and just about the listening and bridging, because we can actually really, really help solve a lot of things. And so that can go in the technological space. So.
I just wanted to add to that, some of the tools that are being developed with digital democracy are actually thanks to and because of the Indigenous communities that are actually telling us and directing us exactly what they need and exactly what they want and exactly how they want to use things. And it's actually really challenging. I'm new to the org, but the org has been doing this work for a while, and it's been it's an interesting thing, like connecting economy to this. Like, it's hard to find funders to support the development of technologies that operate the way that Indigenous communities want them to operate, because it's not centering a product that's outputting towards something that's marketable. These are communities that are trying to find ways to hold knowledge or make observations on their land and then make autonomous decisions on that land, protecting the data and deciding what gets released and when. And where's the marketability in that? It doesn't exist. Very, very, very rare and exceptional funders are putting money behind this. And so it's also part of the conversation when we talk about developing spaces for stories or tools or how things get engaged, is reconsidering how resources get distributed to be able to make those things possible. Just wanted to raise that.
Got another question here I'll take a shot at. Recognizing the importance of protocols, how would you suggest we can do land acknowledgement in a webinar? That's a really good question. It just goes back to breaking down into some simple ideas, and it comes down to respect. So if you're in a cyberspace, it seems kind of weird, because I just had the question today with one of my contractors who said to me, where are we doing our work? We're doing web development, and the question came from the accountants that said, where are we billing our GST to? How is this going to work? We're doing our work online virtually. So where is it? Where are we actually delivering our product? And so I had to say to him, well, that's a pretty gray area. Well, that's the same for territories as well. So if you're online and you're on a webinar, the biggest thing you can do is do your research before you go on, and to understand where you are. If you're in San Francisco or if you're in Toronto, then you tell the group, I'm in that territory. I'm in the territory of the Cowessess First Nation and Treaty 4 territory. Just want to acknowledge that. And you ask other people to do the same thing. Really simple. And any Indigenous people that might be on the webinar, they're going to respect you for that, and they're going to understand what you're doing. So it's the simple gestures that matter the most. It's really easy.
I'm just going to throw a plug in for nativeland.ca. I'm on the board, and if you want to look up your territory, you can do that, or indianhorse.ca/next150, on whose land you can also look up with that app.
I just wanted to make a real quick comment on inclusive online presence, and to tell a 30-second story. I was walking down to a meeting downtown today, and I passed, it was at lunchtime, and there was this one very well-dressed young man sitting there with his cell phone and a pita, and he was taking a picture of it, and he was super concentrated. Yeah, and he was like super, he was going to Insta it, right? And I was like, don't like that shit. Like that is, when you think about what gets that presence and online technology, which, mainstream talks about the democratization, right? And it brings out sort of some of those narcissistic qualities or self-reinforcing qualities, and then you have all this amazing content. Like he'll get 50 likes on that, and then you know what I mean? It's also those choices. And I think about what we're exposed to online. We now have, there's the term filter bubble. And I think about what your own personal algorithm is. Because when we say we don't have presence of Indigenous people, I mean, you don't see my feed. It's like I'm like, you know, it's the choices you made, and in a way, your own personal algorithm led you here tonight to have these experiences. And I've done a little bit of work with Reconciliation Canada as well, and it is about creating those relationships and moving past your own discomfort of the unfamiliar to create opportunities for connection and learning like that. And so that's how I try to think about it. Is what, you know, I know that even in my path, and I try to be a very inclusive person, that I'm still making choices where I'm not having the experiences that would expand me. So I just wanted to make that comment of, you know, what, and also just one other thing in terms of representation online. When you see something online that's racist or homophobic or sexist or showing cruelty or showing violence, don't just let it go by. I mean, I can't even tell you how many things I've gotten taken down, Indigenous or not, or that we should own that space. That space does belong to everybody, and again, because it is, you know, people can make content without that editorial oversight, which also had its paternalistic difficulties, right? That oftentimes the people most active are those who are expressing those unformed, reactionary populist ideas.
Thank you, Sasha. And I just, she didn't mention what, but I think it's important to recognize you for making spaces on this territory more safe for women, for Indigenous people, for all people, because of how deeply I know you walk the talk of that. So thank you. Yeah, and you know, it starts with PETAs, and it ends with, you know, changing the system. You know, so that's what we're talking about here. Oh, yeah, great. Thank you. Join the conversation. I'm coming over. Oh, yeah, it's a good voice.
I just wanted to highlight that there are other resources out there. So if you're doing territorial acknowledgements and you're a little bit nervous about pronunciation just because, you know, there's some words you may have never seen before, or some of the, like in Hunkamin in the Musqueam language, the syllables, you might not know how to do that. If you just get online and Google pronunciation guide First Nations territory, there's at least 3 really good resources that will show you how to phonetically say something. So it'll just give you the confidence as well to help you get to do that territorial acknowledgement right. Or you can just do it like the way sometimes I do, and I just go in and I'm just okay to make mistakes and have people kind of laugh at me a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, just correct and use it as an opportunity to learn, right? I think it's just important to have the courage to do that, but there are those resources, and I just wanted to highlight them because I send them to my colleagues often. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Those resources are so important. You know, these are online resources, and thank you to Lena for raising the 150 Indian Horse Project. The Technology Council does have a challenge on there for you to test your internet speeds, upload them, and share a fact to social media about digital inequality in Canada. It's really helpful if you do. And so, you know, going home and doing a speed test is really quick, and it'll shock you when you know, we've talked about here tonight about the 10 megabits or less that First Nations communities have. When you test that at home, many of you will see 50 or higher. We're going to do a couple more questions, and then Kathy will come collect some others that you've been writing down, that you've been thinking about. We'll do a little bit more of a chat after that. But first, I want to address just this one piece about elders. So Indigenous elders and non-Indigenous elders who may be facing some resistance to this. And this is, you know, I'm really blessed in my work to be able to visit so many communities and to sit in front of First Nations chiefs on a regular basis and listen to the concerns of those communities. I can share that I understand what the concern from Indigenous elders and non-Indigenous elders is around the integration of digital and connected technologies into their communities, onto their lands, into their language, cultural practices, traditions. I myself as I say, from Cowichan. We have a big house culture. I know what it is to be in the big house with my family, with my friends, going through those protocols, going through those traditions, honoring those that are getting their names, and reconnecting with the land and the place they come from. I see how cell phones and Facebook and other things can become pervasive and in the way of connecting to who we are. I think the important thing to recognize is that digital and connected technologies, I'll make this short, digital and connected technologies were introduced to our nations by the government originally. And I think it's important to understand that those technologies were introduced for First Nations' ability to report to the federal government, to Indian and Northern Affairs Canada. So that relationship to technology to report to a colonizing government is a negative relationship with that tool. And I'm not saying that all elders have that memory or that's the issue. It isn't. But I think it's important to recognize that that's how digital technologies came to many of our nations. And that is a pervasive tool that suggests assimilation and ongoing colonization. It has turned into a digital colonization. And our elders question if that's what's happening. That's not wrong. That's not wrong. And so I think, thank our Indigenous and non-Indigenous elders for reminding us, I think we all do, about what matters in life, because it gets easy to forget. And I think our values, our shared values, our ways of being with each other, our connectivity as human beings is critical. It's critical for us, it's critical for our planet, just for our day-to-day well-being. So we have to, I think that we share the responsibility to prove to our Indigenous and non-Indigenous elders that we can create that connectivity, that responsible, cohesive humanity that's about responsibility, that's about caring for each other, it's about caring for this land together in that space. And I think that they're right to think that if we can't achieve that, then we shouldn't do it. So I just wanted to say that to that question. Others may have other thoughts. Lena, yes? And then yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add like one quick thing. Our population is also over-surveilled. So when it comes to fighting for our land and our rights, our title, our traditional ways of being, just operating places of Sundance, as if you guys remember Guffson Lake, and Oka, just protecting lands from golf courses being built, that there's also this hesitation and acknowledgement that we're not secure and that we're over-surveilled. And so Indigenous peoples are over-surveilled, Black people, obviously people who are immigrants and newcomers, and those things have to be really protected too. So there are some friends and some resources. If you come contact me afterwards, there are some people working on this kind of work. I'm not one of them, but I do have contacts in that area if you're more interested. They've been developing and designing tools as well as security webinars for people who are in over-surveilled communities. So.
I recognize we're getting short on time. I'm going to have Lauren say a few words about a question that she's just received and some thoughts she has, and then we're going to move from there, and we'll attempt to close up close to on time, but there will be opportunities to chat afterward.
Thanks. This question and just sitting here has really got me thinking about how we come to these conversations, and we keep coming back to it about how we have to see ourselves in this conversation, and that it's not about coming to events and putting Indigenous people on a stage and asking them to teach us things. That's emotional labor, and we have to see ourselves in the conversation. So I just really want to encourage everybody to bring forward those questions about allyship and how you actually participate in it. I think that learning, about the lived experience and asking the questions of the panel is great, and it's definitely conversation that we need to have, but it's essential that, we really see our own actions and our own selves in how we participate in this. And what got me thinking about this was the question is, are there organizations assisting the First Nations Technology Council in their mission? And I'm happy to say, yeah, we have got a lot of support right now. There's a lot of education institutes, technology companies supporting us. And it's not easy. I think that that's an important part of the reconciliation, decolonization conversation is that there's definitely a commitment of people. Obviously, everybody here in this room, you came wanting to learn about this and participate in this. It's going to be learning as you go. It's going to be sharing those conversations about how you do it. And I often say to our team when we're bumping up against something, with a tech company and an unsafe situation arises for, say, a student where they feel really excluded or racism against them. And I say what we're trying to do as the Technology Council is reconciliation on that daily basis. And so I think that I just really wanted to encourage everybody to not sit back and be learning about Indigenous people, but also be learning about yourselves as settlers. It's also an important part of the learning. So, thanks.
Thanks, Lauren. And like I say, Lauren is an amazing resource. She belongs to the Hive Board of Directors, so is someone who you might see around here. And I really encourage any questions you might have that feel awkward in this situation, ask them. But if you're not sure, ask Lauren afterwards, and she can still chat with you. I'd like to hand it over to James to invite an important voice to the floor and to the discussion.
Thanks, Denise. I didn't mean to hijack the meeting, but I'm just glad that everybody's here and discussing things. And I think it'd be great to have these questions. Like we could almost put it on the website or in the Facebook group that was started. I was kind of hoping to invite my good friend, artist and actor Dwayne Howard to, if he's into it, have a few words, and would love to hear from him. And I do this on a regular basis, put him on the spot, and so he can beat me later. But Dwayne, if you would do us the honor of coming up, and if you had some words, we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you too.
I'll take her seat. Good evening. Now, everybody stand up. Stand up. Except me. Okay, stretch. You've been sitting for the last hour, probably longer. Okay, sit down. Now that I got your full attention, you all listened and stood up. But anyway, I can become a comedian once in a while, James. My name is Dwayne Howard. I come from the Nuu-chah Nation, Tlingit, Kwakiutl, but I've been residing here in Vancouver for the last probably 35 years. Kind of basically, this is my home now. And I just found out, like about 15 years ago, that I got connections with the Squamish, so I'm a little bit Squamish in me. But no, it's really great to hear all this. I've been coming across a lot of this since my achievement and my success in my life of where I come from, and also as myself, residential school survivor. Know what it's like. For me, reconciliation for me. When I think about it, like when it first came out, I was really fighting with myself with it, and decolonization. When I look at these things, anything that happens in life, a lot of our people go within. They go within before they take it up here. right? They process what they're feeling, what they're thinking, right? Even before it came to the floor, the families would have a discussion before it got brought out to the community. You know, so there was ways, talking about protocols of what they did in the longhouses, in the teepees, in the hogans, down in Navajo, country. And even that, I have a Navajo brother down there in Steamboat, Arizona. He said the Navajos used to travel up here to BC, And so you look at our land, somebody talked about land issues, but getting on back to reconciliation, I tell people in order to move forward, we have to change our own dialogue within ourselves. We have to change our own dialogue within ourselves. I tell people, change is going to happen. Change always happens. My grandfather used to say, change is going to come, but don't lose your values in life. Don't lose those principles and laws of what we pass down to you. Don't lose those. I say this too because you look at it in a religion, spiritual way, kind of like all religions and spiritual people, they talk about being humble. They talk about love, they talk about compassion, and that's where all of our people are, all across the world, no matter who you are, right? So that's why I tell people, change that process within yourself, and my grandfather said too, he says, he said, pick up the white man tools. Pick them up, learn, but don't be like them. Like I said, remember your traditions and your values, right? What he meant by that was always be humble, always be respectful, always be kind, considerate, never judge anybody. Despite what happens in life, always be there for others. Because that's the way our people lived a long time ago. I sit down and I talked with my dad and my uncles and everybody of how was it when you guys were growing up? And they said, it was beautiful. So when you look at it now, it's like we're literally relearning our old ways. When you think about it, we're just relearning our old ways. We all have a story, we all have a history, we all have something to offer each other. So I tell people, be open-minded about it, trust the process in life. Now, I was really raised, I didn't know none of my culture because I grew up on Main and Hastings. I moved here when I was 14. Did 13 years on that street, Main and Hastings. Changed my life 32 years ago. I didn't know nothing about my way of life. I wasn't educated. I didn't know my language. Now I'm learning our language. So I tell people it's never too late. I work with the Fraser Health Team. I work with Native Health Society. I'm a motivational speaker. I travel around constantly. I go into communities and I help out the best way I can. We all can make a difference within ourselves, right? But it's up to you, really, to want to make that change. Because we need to, because the Hopi prophecy says the seventh generation is going to make that change in that way. And it's here. We're sitting here. We're sitting here making that difference today. And life is beautiful, but today, when I look at today, it's our women, our backbones of our people that are moving us forward. And that's the way how it was in the longhouse system, the smokehouse system. That's the way it was in the teepee system. The women were protected. They were protectors. And that's the way it was with the Navajos and the Hogans down there. You know. So it's amazing, you know, when you know, I don't know nothing about you people. I know nothing about you, right? But I need to educate myself on that, right? And so I tell people that, you know, how many of you know your great-grandparents? How many of you know your great-grandparents? Wow. I ask that all the time. My great-grandfather, Lewis Howard, from Sitka, Alaska. My grandmother comes, great-great-grandmother comes from Hesquit, Newfoundland Territories. So now you see what I'm saying? So I tell people, educate yourself first before you can really understand us. That's what needs to be done. Educate yourself first. Your history of who your people are, where they're from. The spiritual content of their life or their religion. 10 to 1, it comes back to that way of life of just loving one another, appreciating one another, right? Because we all got, I was in Ireland, and they told me their story about what they went through the English and the Scotlands. And I was like, wow, really? It's just like what we went through over here. So we've all experienced this. But why do our First Nations people stand out? The reason why we stand out is because this is our homeland. That's why we stand out. It's a whole Turtle Island, whole North America. This is our homeland. That's why we stick out. No. So territorial rights all across North America. We owned the land. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. I didn't know you were in the room. I'm slightly embarrassed that you've been here the whole time. And I hope everyone knows the wisdom and the gift that you've just received here this evening. Thank you so much. Yeah. And of course, to our panel, just thank you so much again for being here and sharing your insights. These are really important people to know, you know, from our territories, who are allies, who are from these territories, who are from all over North America, all over the world, who call this place home, and it is important. It is important because these are our territories, and to a large degree, we are invisible on these territories, and we're all trying to learn about each other. And this is a critical conversation, and so thank you for showing up to it. Thank you for being part of it, and encourage you to connect with my friends, my colleagues, my brothers and sisters that are here on the stage, and thanks for being here. And I hope that we can continue the conversation in other ways. Haichka, Osiam. And thank you, Eli, for inviting this conversation and continuing the conversation after so many invitations to be part of your community. So thanks for having us here. Thank you. Thank you.
And I just wanted to add one last note, another piece of wisdom. I always remember my mentor, my elder, saying to me, and I would say to you as well, don't be afraid of being successful. Don't be afraid of your own success. It's in you being successful and bringing others with you and bringing your values. So in the same way that we're all looking to be successful in our way, just want to say don't hold back, but do it in the right way. So I really wish everybody here who's joined together in this community, I hope your dreams come true. I hope our dreams come true, and I hope that gets shared.
Thank you, Sasha. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you at Darby's.